Chapter 3, The Second Noble Truth. Samudaya, the arising of dukkha. The second noble truth is that of the arising or origin of dukkha. Dukkha samudaya ariyas satcha. The most popular and well-known definition of the second truth, as found in innumerable places in the original text, runs as follows. It is the thirst, craving, tanha, which produces re-existence and re-becoming, punnobhasa, and which is bound up with passionate greed, and which finds fresh delight now here and now there, namely 1. Thirst for sense pleasures, kama tanha; 2. Thirst for existence and becoming, bhava tanha; and 3. Thirst for non-existence, self-annihilation, vibhava tanha. It is this thirst, desire, greed, craving, manifesting itself in various ways that gives rise to all forms of suffering and the continuity of beings. But it should not be taken as the first cause, for there is no first cause possible, as according to Buddhism. Everything is relative and interdependent. Even this thirst, tanha, which is considered as the cause of or origin of dukkha, depends for its arising, samudaya, on something else, which is sensation, vedana. And sensation arises depending on contact, phassa, and so on and so forth goes on the circle, which is known as conditioned genesis, paticca samuppada, which we will discuss later. So tanha, thirst, is not the first or the only cause of the arising of dukkha, but it is the most palpable and immediate cause, the principal thing and all-pervading thing. Hence, in certain places of the original Pali texts themselves, the definition of samudaya, or origin of dukkha, includes other defilements and impurities, kilesa, sasava Dhamma. In addition to tanha, thirst, which is always given the first place, within the necessarily limited space of our discussion, it will be sufficient if we remember that this thirst has as its center the false idea of self arising out of ignorance. Here the term thirst includes not only desire for attachment to sense pleasures, wealth, and power, but also desire for and attachment to ideas and ideals, views, opinions, theories, conceptions, and beliefs, Dhamma tanha. According to Buddha's analysis, all the troubles and strife in the world, from little personal quarrels in families to great wars between nations and countries, arise out of this selfish thirst. From this point of view, all economic, political, and social problems are rooted in this selfish thirst. Great statesmen who try to settle international disputes and talk of war and peace only in economic and political terms touch the superficialities and never go deep into the real root of the problem. As the Buddha told Ratapala, the world lacks and hankers and is enslaved to thirst. Everyone will admit that all the evils in the world are produced by selfish desire. This is not difficult to understand. But how is this desire, thirst, can produce re-existence and re-becoming? Punnobhasa is a problem not so easy to grasp. It is here that we have to discuss the deeper philosophical side of the second noble truth, corresponding to the philosophical side of the first noble truth. Here we must have some idea about the theory of karma and rebirth. There are 4 nutriments, ahara, in the sense of cause or condition necessary for the condition of continuity of beings. 1. Ordinary material food. 2. Contact of our sense organs, including mind, with external world. Fasahana. 3. Consciousness. And 4. Mental volition or will. Of these 4, the last mentioned, mental volition, is the will to live, to exist, to re-exist, to continue, to become more and more. It creates the root of existence and continuity, striving forward by way of good and bad actions. Kusala kama. It is the same volition, chaitana, we have seen earlier, that volition is kama, as the Buddha himself has defined it. Referring to mental volition just mentioned above, the Buddha says, when one understands the nutriment of mental volition, one understands 3 forms of thirst, tanha. Thus the terms thirst, volition, mental volition, and karma all denote the same thing. They denote the desire, the will to be, to exist, to re-exist, to become more and more, to grow more and more, to accumulate more and more. This is the cause of arising of dukkha, and this is found within the aggregate of mental formations, one of the 5 aggregates which constitute a being. Here is one of the most important and essential points in the Buddhist teaching. We must therefore clearly and carefully mark and remember that the cause, the germ, or arising of dukkha is within dukkha itself, and not outside. We must equally well remember that the cause, the germ, of sensation of dukkha, of the destruction of dukkha, is also within dukkha itself, and not outside. This is what is meant by the well-known formula often found in original Pali texts, Yam Kinichi Samudaya Dhammam Sabam Tam Nirodham Dhammam. Whatever is of the nature of arising, all that is of the nature of cessation. A being, a thing, or a system, if it has within itself the nature of arising, the nature of coming into being, has also within itself the nature, the germ, of its own cessation and destruction. Thus, dukkha, 5 aggregates, has within itself the nature of its own arising, and has also within itself the nature of its own cessation. This point will be taken up again in the discussion of the third noble truth, Nirodha. Now the Pali word kama, or Sanskrit word karma, from the root kra, to do, literally means action, doing. But in the Buddhist theory of karma, it has a specific meaning. It means only volitional action, not all action. Nor does it mean the result of karma as many people wrongly and loosely use it. In Buddhist terminology, karma never means its effect. Its effect is known as the fruit, or the result of karma, kama phala or kama vipaka. Volition may relatively be good or bad, just as a desire may relatively be good or bad. So karma may be good or bad relatively. Good karma, kusala, produces good effects, and bad karma, akusala, produces bad effects. Thirst, volition, karma, whether good or bad, has one force as its effect, force to continue in good or bad direction, in a good or bad direction. Whether good or bad, it is relative, and it is within the cycle of continuity, samsara. An arahant, though he acts, does not accumulate karma, because he is free from the false idea of self, free from the thirst for continuity of becoming, free from all other defilements and impurities, kilesa, sasava, Dhamma. For him there is no rebirth. The theory of karma should not be confused with so-called moral justice or reward and punishment. The idea of moral justice or reward and punishment arises of the conception of a supreme being, a God who sits in judgment and is a lawgiver who decides what is right and wrong. The term justice is ambiguous and dangerous, and in its name more harm than good is done to humanity. The theory of karma is the theory of cause and effect, of action and reaction. It is a natural law which has nothing to do with the idea of justice or reward and punishment. Every volitional action produces its effects or results. If a good action produces good effects and a bad action bad effects, it is not justice or reward or punishment meted out by anyone or any power sitting in judgment on your action, but this is in virtue of its own nature, its own law. This is not difficult to understand, but what is difficult is that according to karma theory, the effects of a volitional action may continue to manifest themselves in a life after death. Here we have to explain what death is according to Buddhism. We have seen earlier that a being is nothing but a combination of physical and mental forces or energies. What we call death is the total non-functioning of the physical body. Do all these forces and energies stop altogether with the non-functioning of the body? Buddhism says no. Will, volition, desire, thirst to exist, to continue, to become more and more, is a tremendous force that moves whole lives, whole existences, that even moves the whole world. This is the greatest force, the greatest energy in the world. According to Buddhism, this force does not stop with the non-functioning of the body, which is death, but continues manifesting itself in another form, producing re-existence, which is called rebirth. Now another question arises. If there is no permanent, unchanging entity or substance like self or soul, Atman, what is it that can re-exist or be reborn after death? Before we go on to life after death, let us consider what this life is and how it continues now. What we call life, as we have so often repeated, is the combination of the five aggregates, a combination of physical and mental energies. These are constantly changing. They do not remain the same for 2 consecutive moments. Every moment they are born and they die. When the aggregates arise, decay, and die, O bhikkhu, every moment you are born, decay and die. Thus, even now during this lifetime, every moment we are born and die, but we continue. If we understand that in this life we can continue without a permanent, unchanging substance like self or soul, why can't we understand that those forces themselves can continue without a self or soul behind them after the non-functioning of the body? When this physical body is no more capable of functioning, energies do not die with it, but continue to take some other shape. Mental or intellectual faculties are tender and weak, but they have within them the potentiality of producing a full-grown man. Physical and mental energies, which constitute the so-called being, have within themselves the power to take a new form and grow gradually and gather force to the full. As there is no permanent, unchanging substance, nothing passes from one moment to the next. So quite obviously, nothing permanent or unchanging can pass or transmigrate from one life to the next. It is a series that continues unbroken, but changes every moment. The series is, really speaking, nothing but movement. It is like a flame that burns through the night. It is not the same flame, nor is it another. A child grows up to be a man of 60. Certainly, the man of 60 is not the same as the child of 60 years ago, nor is he another person. Similarly, a person who dies here and is reborn elsewhere is neither the same person nor another. Na cha so na cha anyo. It is the continuity of the same series. The difference between death and birth is only a thought moment. The last thought moment of this life conditions the first thought moment in the so-called next life, which in fact is the continuity of the same series. During this life itself, too, one thought moment conditions the next thought moment. So, from the Buddhist point of view, the question of life after death is not a great mystery, and a Buddhist is never worried about this problem. As long as there is this thirst to be and become, the cycle of continuity, samsara, goes on. It can stop only when its driving force, this thirst, is cut off through wisdom, which sees reality, truth, nirvana. Chapter 4, the Third Noble Truth. Nirodha, the cessation of dukkha. The third noble truth is that there is emancipation, liberation, freedom from suffering, from the continuity of dukkha. This is called the noble truth of the cessation of dukkha, dukkha nirodha, ariya satcha, which is nibbana, more popularly known in its Sanskrit form, nirvana. To eliminate dukkha completely, one has to eliminate the main root of dukkha, which is thirst, tanha, as we saw earlier. Therefore, nirvana is known also by the term tanha kaya, extinction of thirst. Now you will ask, but what is nirvana? Volumes have been written in reply to this quite natural and simple question. They have more and more only confused the issue rather than clarified it. The only reasonable reply to give to the question is that it can never be answered completely and satisfactorily in words, because human language is too poor to express the real nature of the absolute truth or ultimate reality, which is nirvana. Language is created and used by masses of human beings to express things and ideas experienced by their sense organs and their mind. A supramundane experience like that of the absolute truth is not of such a category. Therefore, there cannot be words to express that experience, just as the fish had no words in his vocabulary to express the nature of the solid land. The tortoise told his friend the fish that the tortoise, just returned to the lake after a walk on the land. Of course, the fish said, "You mean swimming?" The tortoise tried to explain that one couldn't swim on the land, that it was a solid, and that one walked on it. But the fish insisted that there could be nothing like it, that it must be liquid like his lake with waves, and that one must be able to dive and swim there. Words are symbols representing things and ideas known to us. And these symbols do not and cannot convey the true nature of even ordinary things. Language is considered deceptive and misleading in the matter of understanding the truth. So the Lankavatara Sutra says that ignorant people get stuck in the world like an elephant in the mud. Nevertheless, we cannot do without language. But if nirvana is to be expressed and explained in positive terms, we are likely immediately to grasp an idea associated with those terms, which may be quite the contrary. Therefore, it is generally expressed in negative terms, a less dangerous mode, perhaps. So it is often referred to by such negative terms as Tanakaya, extinction of thirst, asankata, uncompound, unconditioned, viraga, absence of desire, nirodha, cessation, nibbana, blowing out or extinction. Let us consider a few definitions and descriptions of nirvana as found in the Pali texts. It is the complete cessation of that very thirst, tanha, giving it up, renouncing it, emancipation from it, detachment from it, calming all conditioned things, giving up all defilements, extinction of thirst, detachment, cessation, nibbana. O bhikkhus, what is the absolute, asamkata, unconditioned? It is, O bhikkhus, the extinction of desire, ragakayo, the extinction of hatred, dosakayo, the extinction of illusion, mohakayo. This, O bhikkhus, is called the absolute. O Radha, the extinction of thirst. Tanhakayo is nibbana. O bhikkhus, whatever there may be things conditioned or unconditioned, among them detachment, viraga, is the highest. That is to say, freedom from conceit, destruction of thirst, the uprooting of attachment, the cutting off of continuity, the extinction of thirst, tanha, detachment, cessation, nibbana. Test. The reply of Sariputta, the chief disciple of the Buddha, to a direct question, what is nibbana, posed by Parivrajaka, is identical with the definition of asankata given by the Buddha above. The extinction of desire, the extinction of hatred, the extinction of illusion, the abandoning and destruction of desire and craving for these five aggregates of attachment, that is the cessation of dukkha. The cessation of continuity and becoming, bhava nirodha, is nibbana. The Buddha says, O bhikkhus, there is the unborn, ungrown, and unconditioned. Were there not the unborn, ungrown, and unconditioned, there would be no escape for the born, grown, and conditioned. Since there is the unborn, ungrown, and unconditioned, so there is escape for the born, grown, and conditioned. Here the four elements of solidity, fluidity, heat, and motion have no place. The notions of length and breadth, and subtle and the gross, good and evil, name and form, are altogether destroyed. Neither this world nor the other, nor coming, going, or standing, neither death nor birth, nor sense objects are to be found. Because nirvana is thus expressed in negative terms, there are many who have gotten a wrong notion that it is negative and expresses self-annihilation. Nirvana is definitely no annihilation of self, because there is no self to annihilate. If at all, it is the annihilation of the illusion of the false idea of self. It is incorrect to say that nirvana is negative or positive. The idea of negative and positive are relative and are within the realm of duality. These terms can be applied to nirvana, absolute truth, which is beyond duality and relativity. A negative word need not necessarily indicate a negative state. The Pali or Sanskrit word for health is arogya, a negative term, which literally means absence of illness. But arogya, health, does not represent a negative state. The word immortal, or its Sanskrit equivalent, amrata, or Pali amata, which also is a synonym for nirvana, is negative, but it does not denote a negative state. The negation of negative values is not negative. One of the well-known synonyms of nirvana is freedom. Pali muti, Sanskrit mukti. Nobody would say that freedom is negative, but even freedom has a negative side. Freedom is always a liberation from something which is obstructive, which is evil, which is negative. But freedom is not negative. So nirvana, muti, or vimutti, the absolute freedom, is freedom from all evil, freedom from craving, hatred, and ignorance, freedom from all terms of duality, relativity, time, and space. We may get some idea of nirvana as absolute truth from the Dhamma Sutta, number 140 of the Majjhima Nikaya. This extremely important discourse was delivered by the Buddha to Pukasati, already mentioned, whom the master found to be intelligent and earnest. In the quiet of the night in a potter's shed. The essence of the relevant portions of the sutta is as follows. A man composed of 6 elements: solidity, fluidity, heat, motion, space, and consciousness. A man is composed of 6 elements: solidity, fluidity, heat, motion, space, and consciousness. He analyzes them and finds that none of them is mine or me or myself. He understands how consciousness appears and disappears, how pleasant, unpleasant, and natural sensations appear and disappear. Through this knowledge his mind becomes detached. Then he finds within him a pure equanimity, upekkha, which he can direct towards the attainment of any high spiritual state. And he knows that thus this pure equanimity will last for a long period. But then he thinks, if I focus this purified and cleansed equanimity on the sphere of infinite space and develop a mind conforming thereto, that is a mental creation. Samkatam. If I focus this purified and cleansed equanimity on the space of infinite consciousness, on the sphere of nothingness, or on the sphere of neither perception nor non-perception, and develop a mind conforming thereto, that is a mental creation. Then he neither mentally creates nor wills continuity and becoming, bhava, or annihilation, vibhava. As he does not construct or does not will continuity and becoming or annihilation, he does not cling to anything in the world, or he does not cling, he is not anxious. He is not anxious, he is completely calmed within, fully blown out within, pachatang yeva parinibbhayati. And he knows, finished is birth, lived is pure life, what should be done is done, nothing more is left to be done. Now when he experiences a pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral sensation, he knows that it is impermanent, that it does not bind him, that it is not experienced with passion. Whatever may be cessation, he experiences it without being bound to it. Visamyuto. He knows that all those sensations will be pacified with the dissolution of the body, just as the flame of a lamp goes out when oil and wick give out. Therefore, O Bhikkhu, a person so endowed is endowed with the absolute wisdom, for the knowledge of the extinction of all dukkha is the absolute noble wisdom. This, his deliverance founded on truth, is unshakable. O Bhikkhu, that which is unreality, Mosa Dhamma, is false. That which is reality, Amosa Dhamma, Nibbana, is truth, Satcha. Therefore, O Bhikkhu, a person so endowed is endowed with this absolute truth. For the absolute noble truth, Paramam Ariya Satchang, is Nibbana, which is reality. Elsewhere, the Buddha unequivocally uses the word truth in place of Nibbana. I will teach you the truth and the path leading to the truth. Here, truth definitely means nirvana. Now, what is absolute truth? According to Buddhism, the absolute truth is that there is nothing absolute in the world, that everything is relative, conditioned, and impermanent, and that there is no unchanging, everlasting, absolute substance like self, soul, Atman, within or without. This is the absolute truth. Truth is never negative, though there is a popular expression as negative truth. The realization of this truth, i.e., to see things as they really are, yataputam, without illusion or ignorance, ajiva, is the extinction of craving, thirst, tanhakaya, and the cessation, nirodha, of dukkha, which is nirvana. It is interesting and useful to remember here that the Mahayana view of nirvana as not being different from samsara. The same thing is samsara or nirvana according to the view you look at it subjectively or objectively. This Mahayana view was probably developed out of the ideas found in the original Theravada Pali texts, to which we have just referred in our brief discussion. It is incorrect to think that nirvana is the natural result of the extinction of craving. Nirvana is not the result of anything. If it would be a result, then it would be an effect produced by a cause. It would be samkhara, produced and conditioned. Nirvana is neither cause nor effect. It is beyond cause and effect. Truth is not a result nor an effect. It is not produced like a mystic spiritual mental state such as dhyana or samadhi. Truth is, nirvana is. The only thing you can do is to see it, to realize it. There is a path leading to the realization of nirvana, but nirvana is not the result of this path. You may get to the mountain along a path, but the mountain is not the result, not an effect of the path. You may see a light, but the light is not the result of your eyesight. People often ask, what is there after nirvana? This question cannot arise because nirvana is the ultimate truth. If it is ultimate, there can be nothing after it. If there is anything after nirvana, then that will be the ultimate truth and not nirvana. A monk named Radha put this question to the Buddha in a different form. For what purpose or end is nirvana? This question presupposes something after nirvana when it postulates some purpose or end to it. So the Buddha answered, "Oh Radha, this question could not catch its limit, i.e., it is beside the point. One lives the holy life with nirvana as its final plunge into the absolute truth as its goal." Some popular, inaccurately phrased expressions like the Buddha entered into nirvana or parinirvana after his death have given rise to many imaginary speculations about nirvana. The moment you hear the phrase that the Buddha entered into nirvana or parinirvana, you take nirvana to be a state or a realm or a position in which there is some sort of existence, and try to imagine it in terms of the senses of the word existence as it is known to you. The popular expression entered into nirvana has no equivalent in the original text. There is no such thing as entering into nirvana after death. There is a word parinibbuto used to denote the death of the Buddha or an arahant who has realized nirvana, but it does not mean entering into nirvana. Parinibbuto simply means fully passed away, fully blown out, or fully extinct, because the Buddha or arahant has no re-existence after his death. Now another question arises. What happens to the Buddha or an arahant after his death, parinirvana? This comes under the category of unanswered questions. Avyakata. Even when the Buddha spoke about this, he indicated that no words in our vocabulary could express what happens to an arahant after his death. In reply to a parivrajaka named Vacha, the Buddha said that terms like born or not born do not apply in the case of an arahant, because those things, matter, sensation, perception, mental activities, consciousness, with which the terms like born and not born are associated, are completely destroyed and uprooted, never to rise again after his death. An arahant after his death is often compared to a fire gone out when the supply of wood is over, or the flame of a lamp gone out when the wick and oil are finished. Here it should be clear and distinctly understood, without any confusion, that what is compared to a flame or a fire gone out is not nirvana, but the being composed of the 5 aggregates who realize nirvana. This point has to be emphasized because many people, even some great scholars, have misunderstood and misinterpreted the simile as referring to nirvana. Nirvana is never compared to a fire or lamp gone out. There is another popular question: if there is no self, no Atman, who realizes nirvana? Because we go on to nirvana, let us ask the question: who thinks now? Is there no self? We have seen earlier that it is the thought that thinks, that there is no thinker behind the thought. In the same way, it is wisdom, panya, realization, that realizes. There is no other self behind the realization. In the discussion of the origin of dukkha, we saw that whatever it may be, whether being or thing or system, if it is of the nature of arising, it has within itself the nature, the germ of its cessation, its destruction. Now dukkha, samsara, the cycle of continuity, is the nature of arising. It must also be of the nature of cessation. Dukkha arises because of thirst, tanha, and it ceases because of wisdom, panya. Thirst and wisdom are both within the 5 aggregates, as we saw earlier. Thus the germ of the arising as well as that of their cessation are both within the 5 aggregates. This is the real meaning of the Buddha's well-known statement: within this fathom-long sentient body itself, I postulate the world, the arising of the world, the cessation of the world, and the path leading to the cessation of the world. This means that all the 4 Noble Truths are found within the 5 aggregates, i.e. within ourselves. Here, the word world, loka, is used in place of dukkha. This also means that there is no external power that produces the arising and the cessation of dukkha. When wisdom is developed and cultivated according to the 4th Noble Truth, the next to be taken up, it is the secret of life, the reality of things as they are. When the secret is discovered, when the truth is seen, all the forces which feverishly produce the continuity of samsara and illusion become calm and incapable of producing any more karma formations. Because there is no more illusion, no more thirst for continuity. When the secret is discovered, when the truth is seen, all forces which feverishly produce the continuity of samsara and illusion become calm and incapable of producing any more karma formations, because there is no more illusion, no more thirst for continuity. It is like a mental disease which is cured when the cause or the secret of the malady is discovered and seen by the patient. In almost all religions, the summum bonum can be attained only after death, but nirvana can be realized in this very life. It is not necessary to wait till you die to attain it. He who has realized the truth, nirvana, is the happiest being in the world. He is free from all complexes and obsessions, the worries and troubles that torment others. His mental health is perfect. He does not repent the past, nor does he brood over the future. He lives fully in the present. Therefore, he appreciates and enjoys things in the purest sense without self-projections. He is joyful, exultant, enjoying the pure life, his faculties pleased, free from anxiety, serene and peaceful. As he is free from selfish desire, hatred, ignorance, conceit, pride, and all such defilements. He is pure and gentle, full of universal love, compassion, kindness, sympathy, understanding, and tolerance. His service to others is of the purest, for he has no thought of self. He gains nothing, accumulates nothing, not even anything spiritual, because he is free from the illusion of self, the thirst for becoming. Nirvana is beyond all terms of duality and relativity. It is therefore beyond our conceptions of good and evil, right, wrong, existence and non-existence. Even the word happiness, sukha, which is used to describe nirvana, has an entirely different sense here. Sariputta once said, "O friend, nirvana is happiness. Nirvana is happiness." Then Udayi asked, "But friend Sariputta, what happiness can it be if there is no sensation?" Sariputta's reply was highly philosophical and beyond ordinary comprehension. That there is no sensation itself is happiness. Nirvana is beyond logic and reasoning, atakavachara. However much we engage, often as a vain intellectual pastime, in highly speculative discussions regarding nirvana or ultimate truth or reality, we shall never understand it that way. A child in the kindergarten should not quarrel about the theory of relativity. Instead, if he follows his studies patiently and diligently, one day he may understand it. Nirvana is to be realized by the wise within themselves. Pachatam veditabo vinyuhi. If we follow the path patiently and with diligence, train and purify ourselves earnestly, and attain the necessary spiritual development, we may one day realize it within ourselves, without taxing ourselves with puzzling and high-sounding words. Let us therefore now turn to the path which leads to realization of nirvana. Chapter 5, The Fourth Noble Truth, Magga, the Path. The fourth noble truth is that of the way leading to the cessation of dukkha. This is known as the middle path, Majjhima Paripada, because it avoids two extremes. One extreme being the search for happiness through the pleasures of the senses, which is low, common, unprofitable, and the way of the ordinary people. The other being the search for happiness through self-mortification in different forms of asceticism, which is painful, unworthy, and unprofitable. Having himself first tried these two extremes, and having found them to be useless, the Buddha discovered through personal experience the middle path, which gives vision and knowledge, which leads to calm insight, enlightenment, nirvana. This middle path is generally referred to as the Noble Eightfold Path, Ariya Ahangika Magga, because it is composed of 8 categories or divisions, namely 1. Right understanding, Samadeti; 2. Right thought, Sammasankappa; 3. Right speech, Sammavaka; 4. Right action, Sammakamanta; 5. Right livelihood, Samma Ajiva; 6. Right effort, samavayama. 7. Right mindfulness, samasati. 8. Right concentration, samasamadhi. Practically, the whole teaching of the Buddha, to which he devoted himself during 45 years, deals in some way or another with this path. He explained it in different ways and in different words to different people, according to the stage of their development and their capacity to understand and follow him. But the essence of those many thousand discourses scattered in Buddhist scripture is found in the Noble Eightfold Path. It should not be thought that the 8 categories or divisions of the path should be followed or practiced one after the other in the numerical order as given in the usual list above, but they are to be developed more or less simultaneously, as far as possible according to the capacity of each individual. They are all linked together, and each helps the cultivation of the others. The 8 factors aim at promoting and perfecting the 3 essentials of Buddhist training and discipline, namely A. Ethical conduct, sila, B. Mental discipline, samadhi, and C. Wisdom, panya. It will therefore be more helpful for a coherent and better understanding of the 8 divisions of the path if we group them and explain them according to these 3 heads. Ethical conduct, sila, is built on the vast conception of universal love and compassion for all living beings, on which the Buddhist teaching is based. It is regrettable that many scholars forget this great ideal of the Buddhist teaching and indulge in only dry philosophical and metaphysical divagations when they talk and write about Buddhism. The Buddha gave his teaching for the good of the many, for the happiness of the many, out of compassion for the world. According to Buddhism, for a man to be perfect, there are 2 qualities that he should develop equally: compassion, karuna, on one side, and wisdom, panya, on the other. Here compassion represents love, charity, kindness, tolerance, and such noble qualities on the emotional side, or qualities of the heart, while wisdom would stand for the intellectual side, or the qualities of the mind. If one develops only the emotional, neglecting the intellectual, one may become a good-hearted fool, while to develop only the intellectual side, neglecting the emotional, may turn one into a hard-hearted intellect without feeling for others. Therefore, to be perfect, one has to develop both equally. That is the aim of the Buddhist way of life. In it, wisdom and compassion are inseparably linked together, as we shall see later. Now, in ethical conduct, sila, based on love and compassion, are included 3 factors of the Noble Eightfold Path, namely right speech, right action, and right livelihood. Numbers 3, 4, and 5 in the list. Right speech means abstention from 1. Telling lies, 2. From backbiting and slander and talk that may bring about hatred, enmity, disunity, and disharmony among individuals or groups of people. 3. From harsh, rude, impolite, malicious, and abusive language. And 4. From idle, useless, and foolish babble and gossip. When one abstains from these forms of wrong and harmful speech, one naturally has to speak the truth, has to use words that are friendly and benevolent, pleasant and gentle, meaningful and useful. One should not speak carelessly. Speech should be at the right time and place. If one cannot say something useful, one should keep noble silence. Right action aims at promoting moral, honorable, and peaceful conduct. It admonishes us that we should abstain from destroying life, from stealing, from dishonest dealings, from illegitimate sexual intercourse, and that we should also help others to lead a peaceful and honorable life in the right way. Right livelihood means that one should abstain from making one's living through a profession that brings harm to others, such as trading in arms, lethal weapons, intoxicating drinks, poisons, killing animals, cheating, etc., and should live by a profession which is honorable, blameless, and innocent of harm to others. One can clearly see here that Buddhism is strongly opposed to any kind of war. When it lays down that trade in arms and lethal weapons is an evil and unjust means of livelihood. These three factors, right speech, right action, and right livelihood of the Eightfold Path, constitute ethical conduct. It should be realized that the Buddhist ethical and moral conduct aims at promoting a happy and harmonious life, both for the individual and for society. This moral conduct is considered as the indispensable foundation for all spiritual attainments. No spiritual development is possible without this moral basis. Next comes mental discipline, in which are included three other factors of the Eightfold Path, namely right effort, right mindfulness or attentiveness, and right concentration, numbers 6, 7, and 8 in the list. Right effort is the energetic will, 1, to prevent evil and unwholesome states of mind from arising, and 2, to get rid of such evil and unwholesome states that have already arisen within a man, and also 3, to cause to arise good and wholesome states of mind not yet arisen, and 4, develop and bring to perfection the good and wholesome states of mind already present in a man. Right mindfulness or attentiveness is to be diligently aware, mindful, and attentive with regard to 1, the activities of the body, kaya, 2, sensations or feelings, vedana, 3, the activities of the mind, citta, and 4, ideas, thoughts, concepts, and things, Dhamma. The practice of concentration on breathing, anapanasati, is one of the well-known exercises connected with the body for mental development. There are several other ways of developing attentiveness in relation to the body as modes of meditation. With regard to sensations and feelings, one should be clearly aware of all forms of feelings and sensations, pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral, of how they appear and disappear within oneself. Concerning the activities of mind, one should be aware whether one's mind is lustful or not, given to hatred or not, deluded or not, distracted or concentrated, etc. In this way, one should be aware of all movements of mind, how they arise and disappear. As regards ideas, thoughts, conceptions, and things, one should know their nature, how they appear and disappear, how they developed, how they are suppressed and destroyed, and so on. These 4 forms of mental culture or meditation are treated in detail in the Satipatthana Sutta, setting up of mindfulness. The third and last factor of mental discipline is right concentration, leading to the 4 stages of dhyana, generally called trance or recoilement. In the first stage of dhyana, passionate desires and certain unwholesome thoughts like sensuous lust, ill will, languor, worry, restlessness, and skeptical doubt are discarded, and feelings of joy and happiness are maintained along with certain mental activities. In the second stage, all intellectual activities are suppressed. Tranquility and one-pointedness of the mind developed, and the feelings of joy and happiness are still retained. Still retained. In the third stage, the feeling of joy, which is an active sensation, also disappears, while the disposition of happiness still remains, in addition to mindful equanimity. In the fourth stage of dhyana, all sensations, even of happiness and unhappiness, of joy and sorrow, disappear, only pure equanimity and awareness remaining. Thus the mind is trained and disciplined and developed through right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. The remaining two factors, namely right thought and right understanding, go to constitute wisdom. Right thought denotes the thoughts of selfless renunciation or detachment, thoughts of love and thoughts of non-violence, which are extended to all beings. It is very interesting and important to note here that thoughts of selfless detachment, love, and non-violence are grouped on the side of wisdom. This clearly shows that true wisdom is endowed with these noble qualities, and that all thoughts of selfish desire, ill will, hatred, and violence are the result of a lack of wisdom in all spheres of life, whether individual, social, or political. Right understanding is the understanding of things as they are, and it is the Four Noble Truths that explain things as they really are. Right understanding, therefore, is ultimately reduced to the understanding of the Four Noble Truths. This understanding is the highest wisdom which sees the ultimate reality. According to Buddhism, there are two sorts of understanding, which we generally call understanding is knowledge, an accumulated memory, an intellectual grasping of a subject according to certain given data. This is called knowing accordingly, anubodha. It is not very deep. Real deep understanding is called penetration, pativeda, seeing a thing in its true nature without name and label. This penetration is possible only when the mind is free from all impurities and is fully developed through meditation. From this brief account of the path, one may see that it is a way of life to be followed, practiced, and developed by each individual. It is self-discipline in body, word, and mind, self-development, and self-purification. It has nothing to do with belief, prayer, worship, or ceremony. In that sense, it has nothing which may popularly be called religious. It is a path leading to the realization of ultimate reality, to complete freedom, happiness, and peace through moral, spiritual, and intellectual perfection. In Buddhist countries, there are simple and beautiful customs and ceremonies on religious occasions. They have little to do with the real path, but they have their value in satisfying certain religious emotions and needs of those who are less advanced and helping them gradually along the path. With regard to the Four Noble Truths, we have four functions to perform. The first noble truth is dukkha, the nature of life, its suffering, its sorrows and joys, its imperfections and unsatisfactoriness, its impermanence and insubstantiality. With regard to this, our function is to understand it as a fact, clearly and completely. Paraneya. The second noble truth is the origin of dukkha, which is desire, thirst, accompanied by all other passions, defilements, and impurities. A mere understanding of this fact is not sufficient. Here our function is to discard it, to eliminate, to destroy, and eradicate it. Pahataba. The third noble truth is cessation of dukkha, nirvana, the absolute truth, the ultimate reality. Here our function is to realize it. Sachikataba. The fourth noble truth is the path leading to the realization of nirvana. A mere knowledge of the path, however complete, will not do. In this case, our function is to follow it and keep to it. Bhavetaba.